I have a sneaking suspicion that the Perfect Storm Super Board is from the profit for members sector. And I know that I can ask this question without anybody sort of taking pot shots, etc. But I just wonder about the board's view about what some of the different drivers around these decisions might be for the retail sector relative to the profit for members sector.
A very good question. A very good question. And I think one has to assume that all sectors want to succeed. You know, and if there's a slight difference in the motivation of retail sector, being that you have to feed an external shareholder as well, they still want to succeed, and they're still going to be measured on performance, including relative performance. They're still going to have their cost base affected by whether they gain or lose members, and they're still going to have to be accountable and transparent. Or, well, transparent is probably not the case currently. They don't have to be transparent, but they do have to ultimately be accountable to the marketplace for their actions. So, you know, I don't really see why they need to be radically different in their approach, unless they don't have a stable flow of contribution income. Yeah. That does change things, but that's a broader issue about liquidity and getting an investment premium for foregoing liquidity.
But also, let's not forget, and I made reference to this a couple of times before, we have an obligation under what we say in our PDS to provide good inflation-adjusted returns for our members. That doesn't make reference to all the other funds out there, whether they are retail funds or industry funds. And what we're doing with regard to climate change is a chance for us to step out on our own with self-confidence to generate good returns for our members in an absolute sense.
And I'd see the two distinguishing things being the one about liquidity, and if you know, that's changing, I guess, as more and more members potentially move around, not that much, but for industry funds, that's an issue to think about, which means that we have to look in other asset classes other than just the liquid asset classes. And the other one's cost. And I think that, you know, the issue around competing on cost is one that was opened up a couple of years ago. I don't think it should be the only basis upon which competition occurs. But that's one of the reasons why, you know, cost was raised in our discussion. So if you are marketing a very low cost product, and that's the basis upon which you're competing, then, you know, you're going to have some difficulty in implementation, I guess. But they can bear that. I mean, their fees are sufficient, but they can bear that.
Well, yeah, it could also relate to, on that question, you know, if the retail fund is part of a larger institution that has, you know, resources directed towards these areas, they might be able to leverage that. But I'd agree with Gary. The impetus is there for them to consider it as much as anyone else.
Everyone, if you would please join with me to recognise and thank the organisations who helped us put this event on today. So firstly to AIST, who helped us with the organisation and of course giving us the chair's time. A special thanks must go to Mercer, and especially Helga Bergen and Richard Fuller, who arranged the room for us today, the space, and spent so much time on the script and putting together the thinking for this session. So thank you very much. And of course, thank you to our trustee board who really jumped into the deep end of this event. But I think started the conversation, took it to a deeper level, and will help all of our investment community take it even further. So please, thank these groups.